Clay, I've watched Cadillac change over the past like 10 years. It came out, CTS 2001, and that was like a level here. It was something totally different. Then 2009, you come out with a new CTS, and that took the general idea and made things, it polished it. Made it something that's acceptable to drive, and people like are no longer, well, I drive a Cadillac, but now they're proud of it.
Right.
And now I see this, and this is like 5 times above that 2009 car. What happened to get here?
That's a good question. I think, for us, it's important that on the design team that we're pushing the boundaries of what Cadillac is. I think the car you talked about, the first car back in 2002, that really established what is art and science for Cadillac. And that really had its genesis in, well, what the great Cadillacs, the cars that we loved, that really are icons today, the postmodern cars, even the cars with the first tail fin, the 548, what made them great? And we said, what really made them great, because they all changed very quickly from 48 through the 50s to the 60s. And we said they were all beautiful cars. I mean, they were in tune with what was contemporary forms and features and design, and they usually had the latest of technology that we had. We looked at that, the 2002 car as a rebirth, a renaissance. We call it internally a renaissance, and because it really is back to what made us great, and then build again and build stronger. And so gestures and forms were established, and we had very sheer forms. Well, there's another generation of new cars that are coming. This is the start, and I've been involved in many of them, as well as a couple of the concept cars. And for us, we needed to take and really evolve the language further. We did a good job at establishing, oh, this is Cadillac, look at us, look at me. And people did. It's one of the
few cars on the road where you look at it and you can't mistake it for anything else.
It was polarizing. And there were people who absolutely loved it, and there were people who absolutely did not. That's good when you're establishing a value proposition. But now that we've got the awareness, it's like to really grow, I need to get it awareness again to people who were shopping luxury cars. I got their awareness. Second generation car, I got them to go, oh, and with the V and the wagon and the coupe, they're like, oh, wow, look at that, that's something. With this car, I needed to get beyond the to, well, let's take a look at that and let's see what that really means. So the first thing I needed to do, or we needed to do as a team, is we needed to address the overall exterior design and really kind of knock off the edges a bit, while not losing some of these, the lines that really establish what the car is. When you look at the car from far away, you look at the overall roof profile of the car. It's one beautiful movement. It's lyrical. There's a faster roof line on this car than we have that's on the CTS sedan.
And is that something that came from within the design studio, or is that something you kind of looked out and took inspiration elsewhere?
It's a good question. One of the things that we needed to do is we needed to make sure that the choices we made had appeal in the right way. So we talked to customers. We talked to customers a lot, and I think one of the important things is
just Cadillac customers, or are you talking to others?
These were not Cadillac customers, because quite honestly, there are more not Cadillac customers than there are Cadillac customers. So we needed to know what was going to get their attention. And one of the questions we asked them was, tell us about Cadillac. What do you think about Cadillac? And so because they didn't know who we were, they were very open. And they put together some very, very strong points of view.
What were they?
They weren't really positive. Cadillac was, they held on to preconceptions of what Cadillac was from an older time.
What time of frame was, like, give me an idea.
About 3.5 years ago.
Okay, so that was at the point where people were like, okay, I know Cadillac's changing, but they still weren't taking you seriously then.
Correct.
Okay.
And so what we wanted to understand from them was what were the important things for them in this segment. What were they looking for in a luxury car? And so we learned several things. Number one, a very, very, probably one of the most important things that they wanted was a beautiful, elegant, sleek, distinctive looking car. They didn't want to blend in with everybody else. They really wanted something that was unique. And that was kind of reassuring to us that they weren't just trying to follow a herd. So that was clear for them. So beauty was important to them, because a luxury car, you don't need a luxury car. You want a luxury car, right?
Absolutely.
So that was important. The other was that they wanted space. They wanted room inside the car. It was really important to them. They wanted to feel comfortable driving it, and they didn't want to apologize to anybody who was in the back seat, whether it be their friends or family members or clients. They wanted to have a beautiful, spacious inside of the car that was really important to them. We live in a world today that you're connected to everything. You've got cell phones and iPads and you name it, you have it all. And so you can get information in a moment. You can contact anybody in an emergency. They love the idea of having something embedded in the car that gave them better connectivity than they'd ever seen before. And they said, we would pay more money for that if it really worked.
Did you show them a mock-up, a concept of this? You just talked about the idea?
We just talked about it. And so that, of course, led to what we see in Q, which is a new the Cadillac user experience, which is a whole new level of connectivity that's great. That was the genesis of kicking that project off. So then after we met with them and had this confidant group of about 15 people, we went back to work and we started to develop what this car was going to be. Around the time all this was happening, we had a really bad financial experience at General Motors, and that challenged what we could do.
Tells me a country coincided with that.
Yeah. And so right in the heart of all this, there was a more rational thinking going on in terms of rational luxury. And so for us, we had to look at what were the tools that we had to use. Mm-hmm. So we had a lot of great components, powertrains and wheel corners and suspension components, and we had a platform that we could use, and we said, you know, this car could really be a unique entry for Cadillac. And so we took this all-wheel drive platform, and we said, let's build the car out of this, and let's move things around to make sure we can get all the tools that we need. And so we knew that spaciousness was important. So when you look at the profile of the car, you see this 6-window shape in the windows. So you've got 1, 2, 3.
I do like the opera window. That's a nice touch.
It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
And so what that does is it now makes the car look much more spacious than it did before. If the window would have stopped right here, we would have gotten a traditional Cadillac big blank pillar, right? Now all of a sudden I have this much, much bigger opening that really provides more space in the car. And I get light that comes in here, and it creates a sense of a lot more room. And you feel better when you're sitting inside.
Even from the outside, like this looks to be like a long wheelbase car.
Well, it is. It is a long wheelbase car. So we have almost a 112-inch wheelbase car, so it's a nice and there's more room inside this car than there is in a CTS, and it needed to be, even though I think the overall length of the car is a little shorter than the CTS.
Are you serious?
Absolutely.
This is shorter than CTS.
This is a little bit shorter than CTS.
That's like you're like an optical magician.
It's amazing when you move things around what things happen. So we have this very cab forward feel, short front overhang, but then we extended this length back here, which really gave the car a unique gesture and a pull. A car wants to have a sense of direction. Which direction is it going? Is it regal and low slung like the CIEL, where there's long dash to axle, or is it a little bit have a sense of direction and anger and speed? And this car has a little bit of that. And long tails, believe it or not, great in the wind tunnel for aero. Yeah. Great for package and storage back here. We have a bigger trunk inside of this car than a Mercedes-Benz S-Class. And a lot of it is from the length that we added onto the back of the car. But it gives us this sense of spaciousness and presence that the car really needs.
And you've kept these Cadillac touches.
We have the Cadillac touches. So we have the vertical lighting signatures in the front and in the back, but just a little bit of an offset that kind of speaks to the heritage of where this vertical tail was.
My aunt's like Fleetwood in the 70s.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and it's interesting. These elements are even polarizing the customers, but at the same time they say, well, you know, that's a Cadillac.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you like it? Well, you know, a lot of luxury cars are more horizontal. And I said, well, you said you want a distinctive. Yeah, I know. So they're uncomfortable, but they're willing to give it a thought.
Now, Clay, about the interior. I'm noticing the materials significantly another big step up.
Absolutely.
Is this what we're going to see in the final car?
The car you're sitting in here is the Platinum execution, so it's a premium car. But the materials that you're seeing here are pretty much exactly what you're going to see. Natural grain leathers.
This is stunning.
So it's real leather. It's not some crazy grain that you run through a roller. This is what you would see normally. Even this purple stitching that's in the car, that's going to be in the car.
Purple stitching in a Cadillac. Do you ever think you'd see that?
But for some reason it works here, right?
It absolutely does.
Here you've got this, it's a numerical perfed. So it's a perf leather, but it's all numerical created, so it's all random. This is something that we're exploring a lot. We actually have it in the CIEL as well. You got Alcantara.
This really is suede.
This is really suede. We've been asking for these things for 6 years. People will notice this, I promise you. You look at the piano black through here. If this was all lit up, what you'd see in the Q, everything is haptic. So all this is a capacitive touch. So there's no knobs and switches and buttons. So you move your finger across this, and that's what drives the volume up and down.
So who came up with this? Was this the design team came up with the general idea?
The design team, we have a components team inside our organization that works within the interior design organization. They went to work, they created code, they tested it, they went through. They did more invention here than you can imagine, and they took things that were off the shelf from the electronic community and blended them all together. When the lights come alive, it explodes with theatrics.
It's a very Apple-esque. It's simple, but you could tell there's technology behind it.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the other part. That's the science. So you have all this art, and you have the
So
science.
10 years later, now we got the science.
Now we got the science.
Okay, so let's fast forward 10 years. What's next?
Well, that's a good question. I think we're working on that. With vehicles like the CIEL, we've taken that vehicle where we've...
Stunning, by the way.
It is a nice new statement. And so for
nice.
us,
Stunning.
it's stunning. And we're very proud of it. And I think on that one, we want to move well beyond this. Because as much as we've simplified things here, when you look at the interior of the CIEL, it's even simpler. All of our HVAC controls, they're hidden. So all this venting happens in there, almost like hidden architectural venting.
Really?
So it happens in through all the seams that are through the instrument panel, so I don't have to see these big vents anymore. I've eliminated a lot of the extra clutter of instrumentation, and I've moved it to touchpads that are on the side of each side of the steering wheel. I create more openness and more, it's almost like beautiful furniture, more so than all this stuff. Leonardo da Vinci himself said, simple is the ultimate sophistication. How many things can I take away? And I think that's what we're in pursuit of in Cadillac is how can I take things away from you? Because real luxury means I don't have to do anything. Somebody does it for me. It's all prepared. It's almost like your own concierge service. And that's what I think we need to get to Cadillac, that the experience that you have with Cadillac as a brand is one that is so lovely and so memorable that you can't wait to get into your car every day because it's just soothing, it's peaceful, and you love the experience of driving your car. And I think that's what we're in pursuit of.